3, 2, 1.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dr. Thai. I'm the acting head of Economics and Finance Department under the School of Business and Management, RMIT Vietnam. I'm very excited to welcome you all to our business talk today. Before I introduce the presenters, I would like to take this opportunity to share with you about the recent updates on our Economics and Finance program, which is one of the strongest programs at RMIT Vietnam. So the Economics and Finance program equips students with not only critical thinking skills, but also the recent trends in the economy where digital innovation is playing an increasingly important role. In order to get our students ready for life and work in digital environment, we are introducing new courses such as blockchain economy, crypto finance, and cryptocurrencies. Industry engagement is also an important component in our learning and teaching activities. Today's talk is an example of industry engagement. In the business talk series, we invite guest speakers to share business experience, and this is the fourth session sponsored by Finance Program in the topic trends in the Vietnamese FinTech market. So in terms of the speaker, we will have it is our pleasure to have Mr. Cris D is a presenter in our workshop today. Mr. Cris D is the managing director of Infinity Blockchain Ventures, IBV. And IBV is a dynamic consulting and development firm dedicated to providing practical blockchain solutions that can be used seamlessly. He's leading the first securities token offering fundraising in real estate around $100 million in Asian region. Cris D is also principal managing partner of Asia Blockchain Review, the largest community outreach initiative in Asia. It aims to connect all blockchain enthusiasts on a regional scale and facilitate the technological foundation of blockchain through a range of group discussions, technical workshops, conferences, and consulting programs. Prior to this, Cris was the country head of Frost and Sullivan, a global management consulting firm based in Singapore and specialized in digital transformation. He also participated in the IPO of SEA, around $184 million at New York Stock Exchange. Cris is today one of the region's most sought after speakers and thought leaders. Cris has been a keynote speaker for Block Show, Malaysia Tech Week, Tech Fest in Vietnam, etc. Cris' mission is to create reverse innovation, which is to transform the world from Asia, starting with blockchain. So this is very attractive background from Cris. So now from RMIT Vietnam, we also have Dr. Huy Pham, who is a lecturer in finance. He will participate in the topic discussion section. We also have Dr. Binh Nguyen, who is the Senior Program Manager of Finance, who will moderate this interesting section. Before we move on with Cris' presentation, let me quickly go through our section structure today. Right after my introduction, we have Cris' presentation, which is followed by discussion on the topic. We have Dr. Ben and Dr. Huy Pham to join in the discussion. The session will be recapped in Vietnamese by Dr. Binh Nguyen, and right after that, we have the Q&A section. So I would like to thank you all for attending the workshop, and I would like to encourage you to post any questions related to the topic in the chat box on the right-hand side. Once again, I would like to thank Mr. Cris D for joining us today. Over to you, Cris.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. How's Ho Chi Minh City at the moment? I heard from Dr. Thai that it was raining really hard and probably is still raining at the moment. I love your background, Dr. Tai. Yes. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Chris. It's very good to be here. And first, I would like to say thank you to our MIT team for giving me this honor to share about some of our activities as well as the insight about the market for the beloved student of RMIT Vietnam. Let's start. I think we leave it at this slide. Usually, if I do a public presentation, this is where I usually ask everyone, and I'm pretty sure that right now a lot of people are in the virtual room at the moment. So how do you differentiate fintech with other technology, right? I mean, it's very important to get to know the definition of the terms that we're discussing today first. So fintech basically is the technology that will be utilized and being applied for the financial industry, or in short, fintech, right? It can be different from health tech, which is technology using for healthcare, or edutech, in the case of education and so on and so on. I mean, so basically fintech is technology that can be used for the financial industry. And today I will share a lot of insight and example, a little bit on the regional scale, and then a little bit on Vietnam trends as well. So can we go to the next slide? All right, next one. So for the student, the reason I think why the RMIT is having this section for you guys is because fintech is one of the very important area of the economy and the business, and especially on the digital economy, which is happening so rapidly nowadays. And I think it's very important for the student to understand that fintech is an important factor, and it's very crucial for you guys to understand it as the early stage, right? So first, I think I would like to touch on the digital online banking a little bit as well. So on this slide, basically, it's the emphasis of the trends that I would like to share today. The digital bank is coming, is looming, is developing and everything, so all kind of terms and everything. So I will elaborate more in the later slides of the presentation. Can we go to the next slide? So before we get into a very specific scope of the sharing, look at these charts, right? So basically these are the prospect of the digital banking from the ASEAN point of view. So before I go into Vietnam, I would like to go to the regional scale a little bit. So on the left graph, if you can see, Vietnam is actually the light yellow line. You can see like it start from like the 10 back in 2004, for example. So if you compare Vietnam with some of the other benchmark country in the region, like Indonesia, Philippines, Thailand, we have grown quite rapidly for the past 3-4 years, like much better speed than a lot of them, and we are projected to be quite good from 2025 onwards. But there's still a big gap between Japan, Korea, China, Hong Kong, and us, right? So there's still a lot of room for improvement and growing as well. And then on the right side, basically these are the, if you look at the, hold on, let me see. On the right side is almost the same thing, but it's based on, how do I say? On the left is the percentage, and in the right is basically on the numbers. And of course, like if you look at the blue line, it's actually India, which have huge population that can adapt on digital banking as well. Yeah. Next slide. Right. So these are some of the number just to like attract your attention at the moment. So right now, in 2017, the total digital banking market is worth more than $7 trillion, and with the growth over the year, CAGR over 4% from 2018 until 2024, which I mean, like basically you can look at that and you can see average almost 5% growing every year, right? And in 2024, we're expecting the whole market going to be above $9 trillion and everything, which is a huge market if you can really count all of the zeros in it, right? Next. Right. So this chart is more on the digital payment segment in Vietnam. So before we already can see the Vietnam prospect compared with some other region and other country as well. So in this chart, you can look at basically the overall trends of digital payment and banking in Vietnam for the past few years. So in this chart, basically you can look at the four main product that digital banking break into. So it's digital payment, personal finance, alternative lending, alternative financing as well. You can see that the digital payment is probably the biggest segment of the four, right? Which if you look at this graph, maybe you don't understand what is digital payment. So I can give you a few examples of digital payment. Digital payment is basically an option where you use to make payment from one bank to another bank, from one institution to another institution, right? And you already can see some of the trends that even non-financial company can start providing payment as well. And as long as you using the digital platform or internet to make the payment, it's called digital payment, right? Very straightforward. So the growing has been very steady for that sector for the past few years. If you look at other sector like personal finance, alternative lending, alternative financing, it's growing as well, but at a lower scale, right? So what is personal finance, personal lending, or alternative financing, right? So basically it's loan, right? Personal loan or loan to do something, right? And most of these things have to take place on the digital platform, meaning that again it's still provided by mostly financial institution, but you can apply for loans or finance or lending through a digital platform. Again, you need to use your phone, you need to use your internet to be able to access to the product, right? So that's how it's being defined. Yeah, so you can see the digital payment is actually the biggest sector of out of everything, and the whole market expected to be around $50 million by 2024. Yep, huge, right? Next. Right. So I think I mentioned about digital payment from one bank to another bank. So on this slide, I will take a close look at one of the very good example in Vietnam at the moment. So I mean, again, if I'm speaking to everyone right in front of you right now, I'm gonna ask you like raise your hand if any of you actually have T-Mobile Bank at the moment. So T-Mobile is a digital bank project sponsored and powered by VP Bank. You can look at it like it's a digital bank project being incubated by VP Bank. Even though the two companies, it can be considered to be two separate companies, but T-Mobile is actually a subsidiary of VP Bank and using the same infrastructure as VP Bank as well. So what is special about T-Mobile, right? So T-Mobile is the first project and the first application that tried to bring every single experience of the banking user into a mobile and internet experience, right? They have one of the best UI UX, which is the interface of how do you use the app on the phone, because I have used many bank application from different countries. This is really good as well. So with the application, right, it's really a digital bank for you, which means that you don't have to go to a physical bank, physical branch. You don't have to talk to anyone, but you're still able to execute a lot of the transaction that you would like to do with the bank, right? So in the slide, actually, I have list a few products that you can just easily play or use through the app as well, as long as, I mean, after you sign up with the bank, right? So you can either open up your saving account, send people money, or even take out a loans from here as well. And you know, like in the later phase of development, actually they allow you to even top up your phone credit, paying for internet, paying all for utility bills and everything, very convenient. And the best thing that bring Timo to the, like the competition, and everyone knows a lot about Timo, is that Timo, it's almost free for you to do every single thing that I just mentioned just now. Like it's free for you to send people's money, like even 10,000 dong or 50,000 dong or even 100 million Vietnam dong. It's all free, right? It's free for you to top up your phone, your account, your utility bill, and everything. And even you can open up a saving account on the phone as well, and without actually have to going to the branch, right? It's really advanced. So I encourage you to sign up. Again, I'm not advertising for Timo, but I think it's a really good app. But to see how fintech application can be so simple and so easy to use, I think this is one of the hands-on example that you guys have to try it out, right? Next. Right. So I think in the beginning section, Dr. Thai mentioned briefly about blockchain, cryptocurrency, crypto, and then token and everything. So, and actually this is one of our focus area, right? Blockchain. So basically we build product around blockchain solution, and just like that, blockchain can have an impact in every single market. But for the purpose of the presentation and the sharing today, I will just stick blockchain with finance, right? So in this quote, basically blockchain is the global finance makeover with smart contract, right? So what does it mean? What does it mean? So blockchain is a technology that I think if we put it in a very simple term, it's a technology to act as a referee, to act as the middleman, to act as a record holder, to make sure that every single transaction between people and people, company and company, or any single entity on a digital domain can interact with each other with complete trust, right? So, and all of that taken place through a thing called smart contract. So basically, it's ability to enforce everyone to follow some certain rules on the platform, so that no one can break the rules, no one can do different than how the system being designed, for example, right? So with blockchain, there's a lot of application that you can think of, and blockchain is one of the biggest disruption force for the current traditional banking industry, because if you research more and try to get understand about more about blockchain, you can see that blockchain will actually replace the role of a lot of the banks out there, the central bank out there. Basically, those banks are acting at the middle layers to provide trust between, like the banking user and then, like their clients, and then between user and user, right? But what if now you have a technology that allow everyone to interact with each other with complete trust, but you don't need any middle layer anymore? That's how you define blockchain, basically. Yeah. So next slide. Yep. So on this slide, basically it's the top 10 countries that have adopted cryptocurrency. So cryptocurrency is the most famous creation out of the blockchain technology, right? So here we have blockchain as a technology, and cryptocurrency is actually its fintech creation, right? So one of the example solution or product that being generated from the blockchain technology itself is crypto or cryptocurrency. Basically, it's money created by blockchain, right? So what is the character of cryptocurrency? So cryptocurrency, like I mentioned before about blockchain, right? These money can flow from one person to another person, can be transacted in a platform without a middle layers, without a central bank, without a bank or anything. If you own cryptocurrency, you can send it to anyone who have a cryptocurrency wallet as well, which I will touch a little bit in the later part as well, right? So if you look at this chart, these are some of the very big country out there adopting cryptocurrency. I'm afraid that Vietnam despite the fact that we talk a lot about cryptocurrency, talk a lot about blockchain, but Vietnam is not in this list because cryptocurrency in Vietnam considered to be not a legal tender, which means that you cannot use cryptocurrency to buy and exchange for a product, right? So if you use something to exchange for a product or services, it's called legal tender. And in Vietnam, the one of the legal tender is Vietnam Dong, or in a way, in the past, it has been gold, but even the central bank has limits the use of gold as a legal tender to do any transaction based on gold, for example. But cryptocurrency, purely you cannot use that to pay for like food or house or anything, but it's legal for you to save or to keep it as your asset, for example, right? You can't use it to buy stuff, but you can keep it as your own collection or your asset and everything, right? Next slide. Right. So these are continue with that. So these are the blockchain wallet user, right? So one of the so this is the chart of how things has been growing for the past few years for the number of wallet user. One of the key feature of blockchain technology is that if you own cryptocurrency or if you own the tokens created by blockchain technology, you need a wallet to store those value. You need a wallet to store those data, and these are the numbers showing how much the wallets being created and used globally, for example, right? You can look at it similar to a Timo wallet or Mocha wallet or Zalo Pay or anything, right? All of them to send money to each other. So each of an account is actually a wallet, right? The only difference is that those names I just mentioned is traditional product. They are not blockchain product, which means that they depend on a central bank or a middle layer to facilitate the transaction, right? With blockchain, you can just send and receive, send and receive. You don't have to wait for a central bank or a middle layer to approve or anything. That's why it's making a cryptocurrency or a blockchain token so powerful in these new financial economy, for example. Yeah. Next. Right. So one of the example that I want to share with everyone today is Infinito Wallet. So why Infinito Wallet? So Infinito Wallet is actually one of the product that we create, our group create like 3 years back. And I believe Infinito Wallets have done a few student activities with our RMIT Finance Club to, like basically introduce to the student, this is how you like store cryptocurrency. This is how you buy cryptocurrency, and this is how you send, cryptocurrency to people or something like that. This is one of the product that we are very proud, and actually it's already on Apple Store or Android. So if any of you can research more on like the value of cryptocurrency, of token and everything, and you try to buy something, you can use Infinito Wallets to try it out, right? They have an excellent team that can guide you through step by step, very easy to use and completely free to use. Except like all of the fees that being required by all the merchants and everything, but the wallet is free to download and free to use for everyone. Yeah, so if you have a lot of cryptocurrency, you can save it here, right? All right, thank you. So next. Right, so the next item that I would like to touch is an important part of the fintech discussion nowadays is AI, which is a short form of artificial intelligence. So the name itself is already speak for itself. It's an almost intelligent application, but it's artificial, right? So it's not real human, but it's being designed and being create in a way that it's think like a human or even more intelligent than a human. And of course, like if we're talking about smart people, smart brain, smart human, it still very limits what you can do with your brain and everything, right? And of course you can't, I think human can't really compete with you know, like a thousand or 100 of computers out there that run on AI application, for example. So it's give the financial industry a very powerful tool to, you know, like for example, you know, like forecasting about the future, predicting the scenario, or so on and so on. So it's one of a very you know, like emerging technology for the financial industry as well. Yeah. Next. Right. So basically here is also, you know, like some of the statistic on AI as well. So I already mentioned it in the previous slide. It think like a human. It can solve situation like a human, right? So if you can replace human, which of course you have to pay salary to run things and everything. If you can replace human with computer and everything, that basically the bank can save the cost 22% if they all use AI by 2030, for example. So at 22% in operation cost is a lot, is a lot, and actually it's count almost to $1 trillion in saving, if you ask me, right? So it's some indication for you to kind of understand what the technology can do. Next. Yes. So in the next part of my presentation, I would like to touch a little bit so that you can understand the full picture as well. So we have talked a lot of new concept, new idea, new technology, new way of using this and that and everything, right? So what is the problem? What is the problem of you know, having these new things in place for you to use? It's the regulation. So what do I mean by that? The regulation usually and most of the time are behind the technology, meaning that like our company, right? We're creating a lot of the product that existing today that does not exist like two years ago. So the law, the current law, need to catch up with how do they regulate these current product that actually operating today. So it's not only happened in Vietnam, it's happened everywhere in the entire world, that the law have to play catch up to a lot of the financial fintech application and solution out there. And the reason the regulation need to catch up, because their position in the economy is to protect the user, to protect the, you know, like anyone involved in the ecosystem. So if you're talking about investment tool, the regulation is there to protect the investor, right? If you are the bank user, the regulation is there to protect your right of use, for example, right? If anything go wrong, the regulation is there to protect you. But in the case of some of a very new fintech solution out there, they are creating a new product, and there's not even the suitable regulation for those products yet. So basically the regulation need to step up every time to play catch up with the solution, so that it can do its role nicely. Yeah. Next. Right. So here is an example that I would like to share to the students today, that one of the approach by a lot of the government out there to approach these new fintech solution, which again, there's no regulation for that yet. We call something like that is a regulatory sandbox. A sandbox is, you just can think of it, it's like an environment that it's allow all the project, all the new solution to try run on a normal basics, but under the surveillance and monitor of the government, right? So whatever progress you make, the government understand about it. The government can learn about it. So think of the sandbox like a playground that both the government, the regulator, and the project itself can interact with each other in a safe and meaningful order, right? Because we're talking about the case where the product operated outside of the regulation, so which is not safe for the company, which is not safe for the user. So the project need an environment to try and to also educate the user as well as the government on how they can you know, like accept these product as well. So basically that's a sandbox. So How the sandbox usually work is the project allowed to run on the normal basics for a period of time, and after a period of time, the government will decide to give the project a full ability to run on the normal basics. Sometimes it's a license, it's an approval, but after a period of time, they will review the performance, the activities, and then they will let the project knows that, okay, you guys can continue doing what you guys are doing. We understand what you're doing. You can continue, right? Yeah. Basically, that's a sandbox. I think it's one of the very good approach to test, to try, and in the case, you know, like everything is fail, we know that it's safe and it's fail within a small testing environment as well. Yeah. Next slide. Right. So in the last slide, I will go fairly quickly. Basically, I have mentioned a lot about, you know, like the product, the layers, how things are run or everything. So in the last few slides, basically it's some of the key players in their main sector. So this slide is for illustration only, and there are logo and names of these companies. So the student, I encourage you to research more about the company to see what kind of product are they selling, what kind of product they are offering, right? And what are their role in the economy, for example. Next slide. Next. Just go next. Yep, next. Right. Just next as well. Right. So I have mentioned about the regulation, right? So these are the regulators. So these, each of them play a role in some certain activities of the financial industry. None of them own the entire power to rule everything. Each of them own a little bit of power in a single thing, right? So example, in the middle, State Bank of Vietnam, basically everything that related to money will be ruled by State Bank of Vietnam. Anything that considered to be securities, investment, stock, and any kind of, you know, like investment product should be guided and rules by the SSC, the Stock Exchange Commission. And everything that belong to the financial and not fall under the other two regulator will belong to the Ministry of Finance, right? Each of them have a very crucial role in some of the activities that they rules, and sometimes they do cross-check with each other on some of the activities as well. Next. Right, so technology developers. So if you can, the next layer of players is basically, these are very familiar logos for a lot of you out there, like Viettel, FPT, VNG, VNPT. So most of them are originated from a traditional sector like Viettel, VNPT, or even FPT. They are from telco industry, but they're also going into the direction where they try to provide other financial product as well. For example, Viettel, they have Viettel Pay, right? VNG is actually a gaming company, a software company, and now they own the very famous application, which is the Zalo, and Zalo Pay is part of VNG as well, for example. Next. Right. So an important element of the entire fintech ecosystem is the financial and investment institution as well. And here is just a 3 example of some of the investment firms out there in Vietnam. There's plenty of them, which I have a complete kind of maps at the end to show to everyone. So this is for your understanding only. Next. Right. Even so on this slide, financial service provider. So these are usually the licensed financial service provider are usually most of the time they are banks, right? So you can see all the banks, and I believe, you know, like you using some of them out there, and a lot of them have moved from a very traditional platform into providing you know, like fintech solution as well. VP Bank is one of a very active player in the market. They have Timo, they have FE Credit, they have Smart Pay. So I mean, and all of them are project being incubated by VP Bank. So they are very active. You can research more about it and you can learn more about it as well. Next. Right. So here basically is, I believe they don't cover 100% of the entire industry or ecosystem yet, but it's good indication of, you know, like who are the players out there. So if you look at the section on the right, we have tried to break the sector into even smaller sectors like payment, wealth management, P2P lending, digital banking, blockchain, crypto, crowdfunding, financing, comparison platform, POS, InsurTech, which is actually a small subset of FinTech. It's the technology for insurance industry, which is really cool. Check these companies out to see what are they selling, and if you can, you know, like become their, you know, like user or not. Yeah. Next. Yeah. So basically on this slide, it's a percentage and the comparison from the regional scale in terms of what type of the fintech product out there in the ASEAN region, right? You can see most of them, most of the fintech companies are in the payment and mobile wallets segment at the moment, which is like 43%. The rest are much smaller, right? Next. Next. Yep, I think that was the last slide of my solo ongoing presentation for almost like half an hour. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of the question from the audience, from the students. So I think I will pass it back to Dr. Binh, which will moderate the next section. So back to you, Dr. Binh.
Yes, many thanks, Chris, for the fantastic presentation. I'm sure that everyone is now keen to learn more about financial technology in Vietnam. So now for the discussion part, we will have Dr. Huy, also an expert in FinTech from our School of Business and Management, joining us. So maybe I start with Huy. So as we are in the FinTech era, what are the challenges for the adoption of FinTech, especially in Vietnam, do you see?
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for the questions, and thank you, Chris, for a very wonderful presentation that you have. Well, one of the challenges that I think it is also the most important challenge that every fintech companies have to face would be the cybersecurity, because well, when the company control the financial data from the customers, and they will have all the personal data as well. And if the companies does not handle the data well in a carefully way, then it will be leaked. And if the information is leaked, because now we have plenty of fintech players coming to Vietnam, so it could be a big problems, because for banks they have a set of regulation that could help the bank to control those information. But for fintech firms, we don't have any kind of regulation that that are actually in place to control those things. Yes, although those fintech firms, they do have their own ways to make the people feel secure with their private information. The second problem that that I see is the cash payment habit in Vietnam. Well, one example would be if you look at the a few months ago while we in the Tet holidays, you can see that a lot of people who are queuing up for withdrawing the cash from the ATMs. So that is, and well, one of the survey that was done by IDG in 2019, they say that only 21% of the population have the pay online. It's around that number. So the number of people that pay digitally is not that much, and most of Vietnamese are still relying on cash. So to change that habit, it would be a big problem. And the third challenge would be the regulation, like Cris mentioned, with the regulatory sandbox. As of now, the State Bank of Vietnam, they plan to implement a regulatory sandbox for fintech, but that plan was proposed somewhere in November last year, but it is not in place yet. So that is one of the biggest problems as well, because without the regulation, will be very hard for the fintech firms to accelerate, because they will not, they are not in control of their customer and their experiments. And the last challenge that I see would be the money laundering, because now we have people investing in fintech, but we cannot actually track where those money coming from. And one of other things would be when, for example, when the people invest in, say, cryptocurrency, and how can you track if it is a good money or not? So it would be a good place for the people to actually launder their money. And in Europe, they have a case where, for example, you can, if the fintech firms, because I'm not sure about Vietnam if they have a way to track it yet, but in Europe, if you deposit under a certain amount of money, you don't have to prove where the money come from. So, for example, if you have a group of people who want to launder their money, say for example 1 million euros, they can open 100 accounts in 100 different fintech companies, and they can deposit $10,000 into each account, and then they can actually do that to to launder their money in that way. So those are the 4 biggest challenges that I have for the fintech in Vietnam.
Okay, so thank you for sharing. Also, Cris, so related to that question, so in your opinion, what are the major roadblocks for the Vietnamese fintech scene? And related to that, what do you think should be the Vietnamese government do to accelerate the growth of fintech in Vietnam?
I think the 4 factor that Dr. Huy already mentioned is pretty valid. But I would like to elaborate and share a little bit insight on some of that as well. I think on point number 1, cybersecurity, right? If you ask me, one of the quick solution for that is blockchain, right? Blockchain can really protect almost everything, including KYC and personal data from breaching and everything. So it's one of the solution out there to protect any financial industry or any company that would like to protect their data, right? That's number 1. Number 2, I would think is that the regulation, and actually the regulation is the biggest roadblock, and I think it's cover almost every single point that Dr. Huy mentioned as well. For example, right, I think Dr. Huy mentioned about money laundering. It's actually the result of a regulation as well, because if a country have a strict regulation on how people can entering into a single financial product, or how they can entering into like the process of sending money from one place to another, it's also the way to protect the local market as well. So if you don't have the strong regulation in place to protect all of that, of course, people are going to take advantage. And of course, like these people that try to, like Dr. Huy mentioned, right? They try to leverage on the system. So of course they will try to find the loopholes in any country they can find, right? So if Vietnam, we figure it out, they will try to go to Cambodia, for example, right? If the regulation there is not ready, and they can money laundering from Cambodia back to some other country, for example. So the only way we can solve it in the future, I'm pretty sure it has to be in the future, is that every single central bank or financial bodies in the entire world speak the same language. What I mean is that, for example, if in the US it's being regulated that even if you have to send $100 to another person, right, you need to be KYC, then in Vietnam it's the same thing. right? So if every single country speak the same language on the regulation, on how you do things, that's the only way that you can protect the, you know, the wrongdoing in penetrating into so some of the local market. Yeah, I think rather than those two, I think Vietnam is an exciting market, and actually compare with some other neighbor country, actually Vietnam people, the people of Vietnam is very, you know, like test and try and fail kind of you know, like behavior as well. They're very keen on trying new product, especially product, financial product with good promotion. I think you can see a lot of good example out there, you know, like Momo or even Mocha or even GrabPay or something like that. Any financial product out there have a good promotion strategy, can easily engaging with the local community here in Vietnam. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for your sharing, Chris. So you've already started with some comments on the fintech startups in Vietnam. So to elaborate further on this, what is your advice for Vietnamese fintech startups, and what should they do to differentiate themselves from other fintech firms and attract more investors and customers?
I think we can speak it from our company point of view, is that go back to one of the biggest hurdle for any fintech industry in the world, and also in Vietnam as well, which is regulation, right? Why regulation? The point that regulation is the biggest challenge for any fintech company to develop further is because the government, the regulation, the regulator, they don't understand enough about your product, right? And of course, when they don't understand enough about your product, they will be afraid to allow you to operate it in Vietnam, for example, or allow you to sell this product, sell that product to the people, because they're very worried that you can be easily a scam project, or a project that not running efficiently, right? And at the end of the day, the user will be the one who get damaged, for example. So one of the key thing that any fintech company want to develop or want to grow further in Vietnam is public awareness, as well as government education as well. So which meaning that you have to make sure that the government, the regulator understand what are you selling, what is your product all about, what kind of benefits or value it can bring to the Vietnamese user, right? You have to show all of that, and you have to keep doing that from time to time to make sure that the regulators understand about that. Then only that, when they understand enough, maybe they will allow you to operate. Because if, I mean, whatever or how powerful your solution can be, and if they don't understand, I don't think they will not allow you to do anything in Vietnam. And it's actually the case for every single country as well. Yeah.
Thanks, Chris, for sharing. So now back to Dr. Huy. I mean, the first wave of fintech came to Vietnam a couple of years ago, and I think we expected to have a fierce competition between fintech companies and the financial institutions. But currently, the trends show that they coexist together now, the fintech firms and the financial institutions. What is your view on this?
Okay. Is it back to me already?
Yes, Huy.
Okay. Good. All right. So, well, for the fintech firms, it is almost impossible for them to compete directly with the banks, because, well, the consumer base is not that large. So they actually tapping in a niche market. So the ecosystem between the fintech firms and the banks is actually a good thing. For example, we have the case of Momo. They're actually in collaboration with ACB, or VP Bank, or Bayu. They with the Vietcombank, BIDV, or recently the HSBC Vietnam. So it's a good thing, because we have to understand the disadvantage of the banks. Traditional banks are quite often, they are quite slow and inflexible in adapting the new technology, and that would result in the high transaction costs. And they don't meet the customer demand as well. While the fintech firms, they have more advanced technology, and that would help with this weakness of the banks. So the combination of the fintech firms and the traditional banks could be the best of both worlds, whereby the fintech firms, they can approach the large customer base of the banks, traditional banks, and the banks can benefit from the new tech from the fintech firms. Of course, well, not every banks will want to acquire a fintech firms or collaborate with them. For example, some banks such as OCB, they actually create a wallet of themselves. They don't collaborate with Momo or PayU, but they create a wallet of themselves. They call it OCB Omni, and they have a very basic function that are similar to that of Momo and PayU. So, well, the trend is, what I see from now would be the banks would try to either collaborate or even acquire the fintech firms so that they will adapt a new tech rather than develop their own system, because it might cost them more. Right, that's my view.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Huy. So here's another question for Cris with regards to the COVID-19 pandemic. So as we are going through the COVID-19 pandemic and many economic activities have been switched to online mode, so can you discuss your view on how fintech can help Vietnamese firms in this period?
Yes, absolutely, right? So go back to COVID-19. Basically, the impact that COVID-19 have on a business, which including financial services as well, is that you can't, I mean, in a period of time, right, and especially during the lockdown period, you can't really go to any physical banks, or you're not allowed to see any other people, I mean, rather than your family, right? So it's a change in the process on how these financial company serving their client as well. And a lot of the thing has been moved from their office into their employees' house, because people are allowed to work from home and everything, right? So we have seen this trend for the fintech side a while ago, but it has been fastened up by a lot because of COVID-19, because people are not allowed to see each other physically and everything. And one of them is the solution provided by blockchain, right? KYC, but KYC on blockchain, right? Why KYC, right? So KYC is know your customer, the terminology for the banks, right? So every time you go to the bank, or any time you go to any financial company, they want to verify who you are. Like if you are Cris, if you are Dr. Huy, or you are Dr. Binh and everything, are you really who you are? Before they allow you to, like participate any transaction, right? That has been changed a lot because of COVID-19, because now you can't really go to the bank anymore. The bank teller can't really see who you are and everything. So everything is taking place on a digital platform, right? And of course, in a digital platform, it's just like how we're talking to each other at the moment. We're not talking to each other like face to face. We're talking to a computer, right? Dr. Binh, Dr. Huy. So the banks have to use this technology to verify the people, and they need to use this solution which they can trust the most to do the function that usually they can do it on the spot, when they can see the people face to face, they can compare the documentation and everything. But now everything have to do remotely. So absolutely, fintech making, I think COVID-19 actually bring a golden opportunity for a lot of the fintech application out there, especially the one with which allow companies to do things remotely, distant or online. Anything that go with that, I think they're booming quite fast in the last few months as well.
Many thanks, Cris. So now another question for Dr. Huy. So I mean, the wider objective of fintech is to serve the unmet financial needs of those segments of the population which are not the core target segments of traditional financial services models. So what do you think about the effect of fintech on financial inclusion in Vietnam, Dr. Huy?
Okay, well, based on my own calculation, there's around 50% of Vietnamese are unbanked, or actually relying on cash, by paying everything on cash. So the potential of fintech in Vietnam, in the Vietnamese market, is huge, because the fintech firms are actually tapping into this market. Because now, for example, for those people who never have any transaction with the banks or take out a loans with the banks, they are unlikely to have a credit score in a traditional way, where you can check on, say, CIC. And what a fintech actually provide an opportunity for those for the underbanked to access to the financial services that they cannot access previously. So now, for instance, let's look at the Trusting Social. It is a fintech firm that can provide a credit or a trust score based on mobile phones. They actually trace the activities of the users, of the phone users, and track their behavior and use the algorithm to estimate a trust score. And the score can be used as a replacement for the credit score. And they actually, in collaboration with the FE Credit or the VP Bank, and they're actually pushing more customer to those financial institution. So now, from my view, the fintech firms really provide a great opportunity here for people who have never had any relationship with the banks before. So it will have a very positive impact on financial inclusion in Vietnam.
Okay, that's great to hear. And now another thing that I think we should be paying attention to is the literacy about fintech products. So now here's a question from me for Cris. So what is your view on the current state of fintech literacy and education in Vietnam, Cris?
I think definitely that's one of the biggest challenge for the growth of the fintech sector in Vietnam. Absolutely, just like the point I mentioned before about the regulators, right? For the developer of the product, or even the user, or even the creation foundation, right? It's very important for people to understand about where they're heading and everything. And I guess, you know, like here is one of the example how you can bring the understanding of the people about the product, about the direction of the industry is heading into, so that the student, right, which is the future employee resource of the economy, can understand that these are some of the potential area that they can going into, and these are some of the ability of how fintech can serve the current economy or current situation in some ways, right? But I believe there's still a very big gaps, especially in the academy side, and even, you know, like in the technology, you know, like training institution as well, that there's still a big gap between understanding, or, you know, providing enough understanding for the students. Yeah.
Okay, so many thanks, Cris and Huy, for your great sharing in the discussion. So I think we have a lot of questions from the audience. So before we can directly address the question from the audience, I would like to recap your sharings in Vietnamese. So now tôi xin tóm tắt lại nội dung của bài thuyết trình và những chia sẻ của Cris và tiến sĩ Huy. Theo Cris thì ngân hàng số sẽ là tương lai của ngành ngân hàng. Tiềm năng của ngân hàng số ở khu vực ASEAN cực lớn, nhiều ở phần đông dân số trên 15 tuổi. Trong đó thị phần trong thị trường ngân hàng số ở khu vực ASEAN là hơn 60% và tốc độ tăng trưởng kép hàng năm được dự đoán là hơn 4% trong giai đoạn đến năm 2024, cao hơn cả khu vực châu Âu và Bắc Mỹ. Trong lĩnh vực thanh toán số Việt Nam, số lượng người sử dụng được dự đoán sẽ lên đến hơn 49 triệu người vào năm 2024. Cris đã đưa ra các ví dụ cụ thể như ứng dụng Thimo được cung cấp bởi Ngân hàng Việt Nam Thịnh Vượng. Ứng dụng Thimo đem đến cho khách hàng một trải nghiệm số hoàn toàn. Những điểm khiến Thimo đặc biệt bao gồm quản lý tài khoản đa năng, nạp tiền điện thoại, chuyển khoản và trả tiền điện nước, v.v. Tiết kiệm theo kế hoạch tiền gửi, có kỳ hạn và các khoản vay. Trong đó, chức năng Thimo Hangout sẽ thay thế các chi nhánh ngân hàng truyền thống, và các khách hàng mới sẽ đặt lịch hẹn dùng Thimo Hangout để cung cấp thông tin và đáp ứng những yêu cầu về việc chống rửa tiền và tìm hiểu khách hàng của ngân hàng. Chris cũng đề cập đến công nghệ chuỗi khối và blockchain và các hợp đồng thông minh là tương lai của ngành tài chính. Chris đã đưa ra ví dụ về 10 quốc gia có tỷ lệ sử dụng tiền điện tử cao nhất thế giới, trong đó đa số các nước đang phát triển. Chris cũng chỉ ra số lượng ví điện tử sử dụng công nghệ chuỗi khối cũng tăng đều qua các năm. Một ví dụ về ví điện tử là ví Infinito. Đây là ví điện tử đầu tiên được thiết kế cho tất cả các tài sản số bao gồm tiền điện tử và các đồng xu số. Tiếp theo, Chris thảo luận về trí thông minh nhân tạo và ứng dụng của trí thông minh nhân tạo trong các tổ chức tài chính. Ứng dụng trí thông minh nhân tạo có thể giảm 22% chi phí hoạt động, tương đương khoảng 1.000 tỷ đô la Mỹ vào năm 2030. Chris cũng thảo luận về các bộ luật và các khung pháp lý cho công nghệ tài chính ở Việt Nam. Chris giải thích khung pháp lý được thiết kế bởi chính phủ và tạo điều kiện cho các doanh nghiệp trong lĩnh vực công nghệ tài chính thực hiện các thử nghiệm trực tiếp, trong khi chính phủ vẫn có thể dễ dàng quản lý các doanh nghiệp dựa theo khung pháp lý này. Sau đó, Chris thảo luận về hệ sinh thái trong công nghệ tài chính sẽ bao gồm các bên liên quan như nhà phát triển công nghệ như Viettel, FPT, VNPT hay VNG, chính phủ, Bộ Tài chính, Ngân hàng Nhà nước, Ủy ban Chứng khoán Nhà nước, các tổ chức cung cấp dịch vụ tài chính như là các ngân hàng, Techcombank, VPBank, Vietcombank, các tổ chức tài chính truyền thống như là SC Ventures của IDG, Goldman Sachs, IDG Ventures Việt Nam, các công ty như Momo, Payo và Zalupay. Cuối cùng, Chris cũng nhấn mạnh rằng các công ty trong lĩnh vực thanh toán số và ví di động chiếm đến 43% trong ngành công nghệ tài chính ở thị trường ASEAN. Okay, so now, this was my recap in Vietnamese. So now we have some time left to address questions from the audience. So let me start first. So here's a question for Mr. Chris. So does blockchain application make financial transactions more transparent or less transparent? And what are the incentives for policymakers to adopt such practice? Chris, to you. You're on mute, Chris, I think.
Yes, I was saying that was an excellent question, and I think the answer for that question basically telling you why blockchain is the future, especially in the financial industry. The reason why blockchain were created because they try to make everything 100% transparent. That was the initial creation why blockchain is there, especially in the fintech area. That's number one. So that's answer to your question. The first half. Yes, it's making, they try to make everything more and more, or even to a complete transparent level, right? Number two, yes, there's very big incentive for the government to adopt blockchain technology, because as I mentioned before, right? To have a middle layers or any banks in between to facilitate, just a simple transaction. I give you an example, right? In some case, during the weekends, if you're on a bank account from one bank and you try to send money to another banking person from another bank, sometimes it does not allow during the weekend, because you know why? Because the bank acting as a middle layer doing the approval for the transaction. So you have to wait for the bank to come back to operation on Monday to allow that transaction, right? So timely, you have to wait for that, and you can't send money during the weekends, right? And having people actually get on the task of approving those transactions is human cost as well. So put that in perspective. If you remove the time in waiting and also the cost that you have to put for human to approve those transactions, it's saving a lot of cost. So basically, in summary, blockchain solution is creating a lot of cost saving for anyone adopt the technology. Yes.
Thanks, Chris, for sharing. So here's another question for Dr. Huy. So regarding cryptocurrencies, so it seems that regulation is intensifying in this area of cryptocurrencies. So how do you think will this affect the crypto currency market? And also, what is the future of stable coin for e-commerce? Also, maybe particularly for Vietnam. Huy?
Okay. Well, it's a good question. Now, as the regulation is intensifying, we are going to have many exchange going to be closed out. If you read the news, will be couple of days ago in Estonia, Republic of Estonia, they closed out about 300 crypto exchange due to money laundering. So and because of that, now the entire Estonia is one of the most active market in Europe, and that is a problem with crypto trading actually. And if the crypto trading companies, they cannot guarantee that or they don't have a way to track where the money comes from, then it will have a negative impact on those companies. Because when the regulation comes in, and for example, the AML, anti-money laundering, comes in, then those crypto trading exchange will be heavily affected. And for the liquidity of the cryptocurrency, it actually based on the demand and supplies. Because now you look at the Binance or in Vietnam we have Remitano or well Infinito is one as well. But we have all those trading exchanges. So those are well established. All right, and if you are trading in those well established exchange, you should have no problem. And well, and the liquidity would be simply based on your demand supply. And if on that day, and it is how the investor vision as well, because if they believe in cryptocurrency, they will hold that currency regardless of the price. Because now, if you are selling at the price of for today would be $9,500 per Bitcoin, then if you are believing in the future that Bitcoin will go to moon, say reach 100 grand, then it will be cheap today. Then you will be likely to buy it. But if you don't believe in cryptocurrency, then whatever the price is, it's going to be expensive. So, and what is the future of the stable coin and the e-currency in Vietnam? Well, in Vietnam, as of now, the moment that we are talking right now, it is still not legal in some way. Of course, you can still buy and sell cryptocurrency, but you cannot actually use them to buy any, for example, a bowl of pho or a pizza. You cannot do it yet because it's illegal. All right. So so unless we have a regulation in place, then the future might be great, like what Australia or South Korea is doing. Other than that, if we don't have a proper regulation in place, then the future is not that bright for us. And for the e-currency, here, I'm not sure what you mean by the cryptocurrency or the mobile money. Actually, in Vietnam, we have the mobile money, and the government is actually pushing us to use mobile money, and that's going to be implemented by the top mobile phone provider in Vietnam. So that's what I have for the questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Huy.
Can I jump to that question as well?
Yes, Chris, please.
So I heard the question, and I would like to clarify on something as well. Everything Dr. Huy was mentioning was correct, except the no, not except, but I think on the stable coin, we need to be clear on the definition as well. So if the stable coin, we are talking about the stable coin acting as a cryptocurrency. Yes, that's completely illegal in Vietnam at the moment to use as legal tender. But if we're talking about the stable coin that being created and using in a closed ecosystem or environment, or in another terms, right, you can call it points, or you can call it application money, for example, right? I give you the exact example as well. A lot of you are familiar with Grab points, right? So Grab points is not money. Grab points is points that you can use on Grab platform, right? So the point itself is not VND. The point itself is not money, but on certain platform, you can use it to exchange for merchandise, for product and everything. So if we're talking a stable coin being created for a specific ecosystem, right, within the ecosystem, so basically it's rules, right? So if we're talking about, hey, let's create this token or coin that can be used within RMIT, right? You can pay it for cafeteria, you can use it to pay for certain things, right, or exchange for certain things. It's the points that, you know, so basically it's not really conflict with the local currency, if I say so. It's basically, it's a point that you can use on a platform, for example. So I just clarify on that. I think Dr. Huy is absolutely correct on the stable coin as the cryptocurrency, but I just give another example of some of the type of stable coin which can be created for the ecosystem, for example. Yep.
Yes, many thanks, Chris. So now to the next question here. So since I think this is for Dr. Huy, since Dr. Huy mentioned about the habit of Vietnamese people. So the question is how to change the habit of Vietnamese people in using digital banking payment, where somehow they still think it is not safe.
Well, okay. For this question, it would be the way that the banks would educate their customer. They will have to. Well, now it would be in the Vietnamese culture. It would be the word of mouth mostly. Like for example, I use something good, I'm gonna tell my family, oh, this is good, please use it. If you Chris use some other mobile wallet, e-wallet, then you can recommend to your friends as well, just like Momo. So the word of mouth is very important. Now, but they the user or the customer, they need to understand what it really is. So so basically it's just a an app that is connected to a bank account, and you can, everything will be done via the bank account. That is the digital banking payment. So, but I agree that it will take a very long time. But well, because now we are in 2020s, and well, your parents could be in their 50s or 60s already. So, and it will not take, from my opinion, it will take another 10 to 15 years for the digital banking payment to be widely popular to the Vietnamese market, because that by that time it will be replaced by the newborn, the newcomers, the younger generation. They're gonna come in. They're more willing to try the new things, and they actually understand how the e-wallet works. Because now, if I talk to my dad and I educate him about Momo or ZaloPay, no, thank you. They will never try. And it is embedded in their thinking, in the way they use money. So it is almost next to impossible to educate the older generation. But what we can do is that we can educate our younger generation, and 10, 15 years or 20 years from now, things will change.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Huy. So we have another question here. I think this is for Chris. Chris, so how do you assess the KYC of the digital banks? And do you see any potential problems with the validation of data privacy of customers here, Chris?
Yes, I mean, like so the few challenge of the current KYC process in Vietnam is that Vietnam ID documentation has been run on a very complex way of management for a long time, which will take a lot of effort to fix or improve that, right? So basically that transfer into the issue that it takes very long for the banks to verify who you are, and sometimes they can even verify you wrongly as well, because there are cases where people have the same ID number, same name but different ID, or people can steal your ID, make a fake ID and use it for wrong purpose, for example, right? Very bad use, and a lot of challenge with the current KYC and ID management in Vietnam as well. So absolutely, if the banks can consider some of the innovative way to look into how to do faster KYC and also how to store their database better. Again, I think I don't want to advertise about blockchain again, but that's one of the way to go, right? And I think Dr. Huy has mentioned one of a very good example showing that the banks are trying as well. And he mentioned trusting social, right? So trusting social is one of a new way to scoring a person, basically credibility, besides their financial behaviors. So it can be who you're friends with, it can be the activities that you do, the school that you graduate from, all kind of things, right? So that's why it's called trusting social. So everything you're doing on a social behavior, they can score all of that. So for the banks, and Dr. Huy mentioned a lot of banks have tried that. I think that's a very big progress on how the bank can see that, hey, these things are cool, right? Let's try it. Let's see if we can score a person better or understand a person better, right? So I think slowly, but the banks are going into that direction as well. So we're heading to the direction, but it may take a little bit longer than we thought. Yeah.
Yes, thanks, Chris, for sharing. So I think there are many people from the audience who are very interested in fintech companies. So now having you as the CEO of the one very big fintech company, the question is, so in Vietnam, if I want to start a fintech company, what are the key legal issues I should consider?
I think that's a very valid question as well. And I think even as the scale of our company, that's still the challenge that we're facing almost every day. I mean, basically, before you start anything, before you start any ideas, right, it's very important to understand that what kind of product are you selling, right? And then you're asking the next question, with this kind of product, do you need any sort of license to operate it, right? And what will be the requirement for these company to acquire this license, right? Sometimes in some product, the requirement will be capital requirement, for example. One of the example I can give you is for example, mobile wallets. One of the huge requirement to give you the license is capital reserve, right? So for the point that, you know, if any company, like for example, like Momo, they are allowed to keep your money in their wallets and allow you to transact on a digital platform, it meaning that they have to frozen a very big capital behind to get the approval from the central bank for Momo to operate it like that, right? So to be able to operate in a mobile wallets industry, you have to have very strong capital reserve, for example. And the restriction for some other sector are very strict as well. So it's very important to understand that what are the requirements for that particular product, you know, direction, right? And try to understand that if you can qualify for all of that, or you figure out a way, for example, you know, to fundraise to qualify for the capital requirement, or you have the right team in place. Because for example, some of the very financial focus license, they require that you have a team that including a lot of senior people in financial industry, for example, people with 20 years of, you know, like asset management to be able to get that license, for example. Will you be able to get those people in your team, right? Will you have enough salary to pay them or something like that? So asking all of that question, a lot of feasibility question before you actually start on your own project. But I think another way is that having excellent idea are welcome, and sometimes, you know, like even if you figure out that some of the requirements are very tough, you always can look for you know, like angel funding, or you know, like you know, strategic investment from, you know, like these you know, like investment firms or something like that, especially if you thinking that your product is solving a specific challenge in the current economy. I'm pretty sure that you're gonna fundraise quite successfully.
Okay, thanks for sharing, Chris. So here, the next question is about the legal status of cryptocurrency is in Vietnam. So Cris or Dr. Huy, you want to share here your clarification on this?
Okay. Well, as of now, the cryptocurrency is not legal in Vietnam because there's no regulation on it. It's not legalized, and well, now you can only use a currency in Vietnam if it is legalized, and if there's a regulation on that, you cannot use it to try to buy any products, like physical products, like what I said earlier, like a bowl for a pizza. So that is why it is still illegal. You cannot use now, even for USD. If you use USD to buy any products here in Vietnam, it is illegal as well, because by the local laws, everything needs to be conducted in the Vietnamese dong. Right, so it is basically just the regulatory issues.
Okay, thank you, Huy. So then I think just related question to this, but maybe to Cris. I mean, related to the legal status of cryptocurrency, Cris. So can you make a statement about whether just owning cryptocurrencies is illegal or not?
Yep, I think I mentioned it before. I mention it again. Owning cryptocurrency is not illegal. It's just like you collect coins for collection purpose. You collect collectibles. You collect gifts. You collect unique, like physical stuff for collection purpose. And of course, sometimes these things have value as well. So you can see cryptocurrency in that way. So you can collect, you can keep it, but you can't use it to trade for physical product or services like Dr. Huy mentioned, right? So it's different. So it's different, huh? So you got cryptocurrency and then you can, like frame it. You can put it in a picture frame, put it in your room. It's fine. But you're gonna use that to go buy a bowl of pho, pay for pizza. Yes, you're gonna get caught and it's illegal. So keeping it's fine. Collection is fine, but cannot use that for buying or paying for stuff.
Okay, thank you for the clarification here. So now I think cryptocurrencies is attract some attention from the audience. So another question related to this. So how do you think can solo investors compete with bots in investing in cryptocurrencies, Cris?
How something compete with bond? Can you come again?
So how solo investors, I think a person, a private investor.
Solo investor?
Yes, a private investor, I think here is what is meant investing in cryptocurrencies. How can a private investor can compete with bots?
Okay, let me try to see if I understand the question correctly. So basically, let me try to rephrase the question, okay? How does investing in cryptocurrency can compete with other, financial instruments, for example, including bonds? Maybe?
No. So here the question is that, okay, I think nowadays a lot of traders or investors, they're using algorithm, right? They're using maybe even artificial intelligence to trade in the cryptocurrency markets. So how can a normal person without a bot or an AI here compete with these technical tools?
Understood. I guess the answer will cover the traditional investment market as well. It's basically it's a principle, okay? And I think when it comes to investment, my principle doesn't mean that you have to follow my my principle, right? There's many type of principle out there, so it's just my disclaimer for the purpose of disclaimer, right? So cryptocurrency or not, traditional financial instrument or not, it's very important for you to identify your type of investment, right? Is it going to be short term or is it going to be long term, right? If it's for short term, yes, there's a lot of techniques required in identifying the right trends, the right project or even stocks or even coins to invest in the right time as well. But if you're talking about long-term investment, it go back to what kind of value do you believe? I think Dr. Huy mentioned it very nicely as well. Do you believe it or not, right? If you believe in a project and you believe in the value that that project will bring, that's how you invest in a project for a long term, right? And when I mean long term, it means that you should not touch it for at least 1 or 2 years, right? Just leave it there, invest in it, forget about it, just leave it there, and then when you open your wallets again, maybe you become the next millionaire, right? So yes, absolutely, you can. I wouldn't say you can beat, but you can be a very sufficient investor even without those technical tools as well, because those tools basically also follow human thinking and scenario as well, right? So if you really discipline in your thinking, your follow on a project or something like that, I think you can definitely beat out those technology or bots or anything as well. Absolutely, yes.
Okay, many thanks for sharing. So I think we have a lot of more questions to cover, but I'm aware of the time. I think we only have time for one more question here. And I think this is one which maybe everyone has been aware of. So here, the question to Cris, regarding cryptocurrency, what are the biggest problems of launching Libra, Facebook currency? Right, so Facebook tried to launch Libra. So what was the biggest problem there? And will Libra be implemented in your view, Cris?
Okay, so there's two part of the question. So yes, Libra cryptocurrency project basically is the money creating by a digital platform that will not fall under the control of any central bank, right? So if you go back to definition of cryptocurrency, it is that it's the money that flow freely without control of anyone, any central bank, any middleman, or any middle layers, right? So Libra coin is following that. It's just that it's leveraging on a huge user base of Facebook, which is I think around a few billions right now in the entire world. So that's question number one. So what is the Libra kind of project? And the second part of it is, yes, I think even if some country try to stop the Libra project, but just like any other type of investment or financial product, some will say no, some country will say no, some country will say yes. And as long as there are some country still interest in the product, Libra will find a way to survive or grow their business base or user base. And of course, there will be cases that people will try to get on the platform illegally, right? We're talking about, like, for example, trading crypto illegally in Vietnam, for example, right? It's illegal in Vietnam, but people will try to find a way to do it, for example. So it will be the same case for Libra. Some country will say yes, some country will say no. I think the country potentially to say yes are the country that potentially benefits and bring more economical to their country because of Libra, and the country going to be say no will be basically the country that want to control the power of the central bank in the nature. For example, one of the countries like that is Vietnam. So Vietnam will be the type of the country that 200% going to say no to Libra. Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So I think this has been a very insightful session today. So again, many thanks, Cris, for your great presentation and sharing. Also, thanks Huy a lot for providing your academic insights on the topic. I also would like to express my thanks to the leadership team supporting the webinar, as well as the event team, who has been a fantastic support here. Since we are running out of time, so it's for me, yes, thank you all for joining today, and we are looking forward to seeing you again very soon.
Thank you, Binh. Thank you, Huy.